To everybody, hello from Germany, Bavaria. A little icy but sunny outside. Tick activity is going down. Thank Jack for organizing this really good and very complex online conference. 3 Eyes, I want to say. This conference, all speakers, you did a great input, you did a good innovation, and you did a good inspiration to me. Thank you so much. So my theme today is about some complexities in 10 minutes. What you can see here in the first slide, it's my daily job to find out that the Borrelia EliSa is not sufficient enough, that the Western blot has a higher sensitivity, test sensitivity and illness sensitivity also. So you cannot rely on the ELISA tests for Borrelia burgdorferi, IgG and IgM. And thank you, Michael and Asant together, that you did this wonderful paper, or different papers about to say the probability of a false negative test for Lyme disease with a single test for early stage disease was high, 66.8%, which is a horrible number, increasing to 74.9% for two-tier testing. And our problem is always the late stage Lyme disease testing. The two-tier test generated just around 16.7% false negatives compared with 0.095% false negatives generated by a two-step HIV test, which is over a 170-fold difference. So we believe in HIV ELISA, but you cannot trust the Borrelia ELISA. Using clinically representative Lyme disease test sensitivities, the two-tier test system generate over 500 times more false negative results than two-stage HIV testing. You know, the patients are excluded from chronic Lyme disease. There are a lot of issues in that, subclass deficiencies, or also the reference ranges are problematic because they are not done for chronic Lyme disease. They are just done for stage 1 and 2. So some years ago, I was involved in the HiLicense project with Professor Gilbert and some other ones, and it was founded by the European Union with €3 million that time. It was a highly sensitive lab on a chip system, which was developed as a prototype, but never came into routine use. We found that round bodies and biofilm-like colonies from Borrelia burgdorferi in vitro. And we said that time, why not to test or develop test system? Professor Gilbert was that with her team against these round bodies, or better name them pleomorphic forms. We know they have double membrane, intracellular, and on the right side you can see the biofilms. And we did 2 PubMed listed paperworks about that, and we said pleomorphic form Borrelia burgdorferi should be taken into consideration, being clinically relevant and influence the development of novel diagnostics and treatment protocols. So here we are. This is an example from my daily work. So we can see that patients don't develop antibodies against the whole spirochete because Borrelia seems to move intracellular. We heard that talk yesterday also. So why not to test round bodies or pleomorphic bodies, IgG, IgM antibodies, and this example you find them in routine. This is not my main specialty. I am working more in the cellular analytics for years now, I would say 15 years. I say also using T cells to show cellular immune response against antigens is much more sensitive for sure and can indicate an active infection. The antibodies are not helpful in this. They can remain for months or years longer after infection is gone. These ELISpot or Interferon-Gamma-Release assay systems, they have been long used in Germany. The origin is Germany to do exactly this, and Sweden by Stejskal, maybe to mention her, she died some years ago, unfortunately. The ELISpot quantifies the T cells that secrete signature proteins. It's a cytokine release assay, and it's expressed in stimulation index. This is a wonderful book. If you can buy that on Amazon, it's expensive, but it says clearly this teaching book, Immunology, the quantification of single-cell Interferon-Gamma-Release for assessing cellular immune responses using this ELISpot technique is an invaluable technique in immunology, and I can confirm that. We come later to SARS-CoV-2. ELISpot is a technique which is also FDA approved, but not for Lyme disease, because we all know it's a political thing. Chronic Lyme doesn't exist in USA. But it's approved, this test, for tuberculosis, nearly the gold standard. And the FDA is doing that since 2011. In other European countries, we do the quantiferon test, as an example. And in the book from Lyme and others, they said the test in the two assay system, ELISpot plus CD57, natural killer cells, although CD56 belong to that complexity, they complement each other in the quest to understand T-cell mediated immunity in vivo. This is how the method works. I don't want to go into details. You need special cell stabilizing tubes, otherwise you cannot do that test. Heparin is a little dangerous for stabilization, so I found out some years ago the CPD or CPDA tubes are much better, up to 3 to 4 day stabilization process, because this is a living cellular material and you need to handle carefully with it. In the end, the final product you see on the left side at the bottom, you see a spot, and this is that was a living lymphocyte reacting against the antigen which you put into the test system. This is an example for Borrelia EliSpot as a laboratory test report. There are many laboratories doing that now in Germany and for Europe. Not the only laboratory, so it's a certified test and IVD research, which is really important for next year. New challenge: European Union laws will forbid in-house tests to be sold outside. This will come, I think, in June. This EliSpot is helpful, but it's a test. The test is a test. The test cannot prove the illness. We all know that, but it's a helpful tool. Very important what you put into a test system so that you will find out in the results. It's a full antigen in it from sensu stricto subspecies. It's a peptide mix. It's OSPA inside from Apcilia, sensu stricto Garinii. So you have the main subspecies, but not all subspecies for sure. You have an OSPC native, which is cultured antigen, and DVPA recombinant. And to me, very important, the LFR1 lymphocyte function antigen 1, because we know by the mimicry effect that it could be the reason Borrelia burgdorferi for autoimmune disorder. So if you find LFR1 positivity in the EliSpot, you need to check these patients for collagenoses, rheumatoid arthritis, vasculitis by ANA, CCP antibodies, and the anti-neutrophil granulocyte antibodies. This to show you the ELISA versus EliSpot in Lyme stage 1. What you can see here that the EliSpot is reacting 1-2 days after you get the lymphocytic infiltration into the skin. The antibodies, they need time. So EliSpot is positive around 1, 2, 3 days after the spirochete is coming into penetrating your skin. The EliSpot helps you really during antibiotics. It's a staging process marker. This depends on the living time of the lymphocytes, which is around 6 to 8 weeks. The antibody titer, it's protein, cannot help you. It's also boosted. So it's really helpful staging process by this test. The activity, you also can judge about that. If EliSpot remains high, you could say, okay, this is together with the symptoms. Don't treat a test away, so that doesn't make really sense. You can check here for unsuccessful therapies and successful therapies. It's like tumor marker antigens. What about sensitivity, specificity? Always the question in PubMed listed paperwork. You can see here that there are 2 papers in 2012, 82% in neuroborreliosis, and it was 100% in another group, Stockman at others. And they said it's 100% specificity. This is really good data. So what about sensitivity? Sensitivity is estimated 84–85%, which is really good for such a test system. It's a really robust test system, highly reproducible. You have the CD57 cells on the other side for chronic inflammatory processes. So the specificity overall should be 94% and sensitivity 84%. And thank you, Jack, for that wonderful paper, which was presented in 2017 by Michael Cook at IELTS conference. And you showed clearly, Jack, with your patient that we have a better test system in the world. You showed that Standard Lab C6 ELISA showed just 32% sensitivity, whereas ELISpot 84%. And then you compared it with the Western blots, 15% just, which is a tragedy. And ELISpot was 85% positive. And the two-tier system, Jack, you found 14% in your cohort, and the EliSpot positivity was 86%. So this is exactly the data we have from other authors and books. And this really good test system. So forget about the antibodies, don't do the ELISA in chronic patients, and maybe you do Western blot or microarray. So this is an overview what we should do. The T-Plex basic for persistent forms, this has around 98% sensitivity. And the EliSpot for the cellular immunity. We have it also for myomotor, which is really a tragedy since 2016. One more ticks are full from this pathogen, Borrelia myomotor, the lapsing fever. We have a lot of this also here in Bavaria. And in the end, I want to show where the development is going, moving. We have a lot of development now on the viruses also, and I'm really proud to say we are one of the first routine laboratories in the world doing coronavirus EliSpot. This is really important. It's named the iSpot. We also do interleukin-2 in this. We do it for SARS-CoV-2 and for pan-coronavirus mix, and it's a validated test. It's on certification way. Studies will be published. So I'm so happy to offer also this test for the world. And you need experience to do the test. Not every laboratory can do that test. You need a good personal staff. And here are all the references on that. And thank you very much for your attention.